Okay, let's get right into it. We are going to deconstruct one of the darkest and most complex stories of our time, the shadow empire of Jeffrey Epstein. It's this tangled web of wealth, power, and absolutely horrific crimes that, as you know, is still making headlines today. And it's a story that really demands a closer look. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to step inside the glittering world Epstein built around himself. Then, we'll expose the secret criminal enterprise that it was all designed to hide. We'll look at how justice was completely derailed and then, years later, revived. We'll cover his fall and the final reckoning. And stick around for the end, because we're going to explore the legacy of power and the fallout that is still unfolding right now. All right, first up, you have to understand the public image, the persona. Let's peel back the layers on this character Epstein spent decades creating, this image of a mysterious, super-connected financial genius. I mean, look at this. Epstein built a world of luxury that's hard to even wrap your head around. You're seeing his enormous townhouse in Manhattan on the left, and on the right, his own private Caribbean island. But you gotta understand, these weren't just homes. Oh no. They were stages, carefully designed to impress, to intimidate, and to lure the most powerful people in the world straight into his web. In his rise to get all this, it was improbable to say the least. This guy was a college dropout who somehow charms his way into a teaching job at an elite private school. From there, he makes the jump to the trading floor at Bear Stearns, and by the late 80s, he's managing the massive fortune of billionaire Les Wexner. That connection? That was his golden ticket into the highest levels of global society. And you know, nothing screamed, "I'm connected," more than his private Boeing 727. The media, of course, gave it that infamous nickname, the Lolita Express. Its flight logs read like a who's who of the global elite. Presidents, princes, CEOs, celebrities, you name it. This plane was more than just transportation. It was a key part of his entire operation. So you see all this, right? The wealth, the power, the meticulously crafted image, and it all just begs this one chilling question. What on earth was really going on behind that facade? Okay, now we pull back that curtain, and we have to confront the horrifying reality that was hidden just beneath the surface. This one number, it just cuts through all the noise. 14. That was the age of some of his youngest victims. This was never a scandal about the rich and famous. At its core, it was a criminal conspiracy that targeted children. And this wasn't random. It was a cold, calculated system. Investigators and survivors have described it as a pyramid scheme of abuse. It would start with him luring girls in with money for so-called massages. They'd be assaulted, and then, and this is the truly evil part, they were pressured and paid to recruit their own friends, which created this constant self-sustaining cycle of exploitation.
And make no mistake, he did not do this alone, not even close. His longtime partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, was absolutely essential to the whole thing. According to testimony and court evidence, her job was to use her high society status to groom and recruit vulnerable girls, making them feel safe right before she led them into Epstein's trap.
So, how did this go on for so long? Well, this part of the story is a shocking look at the justice system itself, and it shows just how much power and influence can bend the law. The very first crack in this empire appeared back in 2005, and it didn't come from some big federal agency. It came from the parents of a 14-year-old girl who bravely walked into a police station in Palm Beach. Their report kicked off an investigation that very quickly uncovered a horrifying pattern of abuse involving more than 30 victims. But then, something unbelievable happened that just shows how broken the system can be. Even though federal investigators had found dozens of victims, the prosecutors, led by the U.S. attorney at the time, Alexander Acosta, cut a secret deal, a non-prosecution agreement. So Epstein dodges a federal trial, pleads to some minor state charges, and serves just 13 months in a county jail with work release privileges that let him leave most days. And the worst part, the victims were never even told this deal was happening. So for a decade, that was it. The case just went cold. Epstein was a free man. Then, in 2018, everything changed, thanks to the incredible reporting of Julie K. Brown at the Miami Herald. Her series was called Perversion of Justice, and it blew the lid off that secret deal, creating this massive firestorm of public outrage that finally forced federal prosecutors in New York to reopen the case. And that renewed public pressure, It set off a chain reaction, leading to a really swift, really dramatic final act in this whole saga. So on July 6, 2019, that decade of immunity came to a crashing halt. As Epstein's private jet landed in New Jersey, federal agents literally swarmed the tarmac. And this time, the charges were serious. They were federal sex trafficking of minors. He was denied bail. The walls were finally closing in. But just over a month later, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell. Now, the official ruling was suicide, but it happened during what the Department of Justice later called catastrophic failures at the jail. We're talking sleeping guards, broken cameras, falsified logs, the whole thing. His death meant he would never face a jury, but the story was far from over.
With Epstein gone, the legal spotlight swung directly onto his main enabler, Ghislaine Maxwell. Her trial, it hinged on the powerful, gut-wrenching testimony of the survivors themselves. They took the stand, they told their stories, and it was their incredible courage that ultimately secured her conviction. So, while Epstein himself escaped a final verdict from a jury, some accountability was delivered. Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty on multiple sex trafficking charges and sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, a conviction secured by the women who just refused to stay silent.
Okay, finally, let's look at the aftermath, because the story didn't just stop with Maxwell's conviction. The fallout is massive, and it's still happening as we speak.
The financial consequences have been huge. A fund set up by Epstein's estate has paid out over $200 million to his victims. And this is critical. Financial giants like JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank have paid out hundreds of millions more to settle lawsuits that allege they knew what was going on and enabled his trafficking operation for years. And this is why the story is so relevant today. Court-ordered releases of thousands and thousands of pages of documents are putting the names of Epstein's powerful friends and associates right back in the headlines. It's forcing this huge, renewed public debate, making everyone ask who knew what and when did they know it. The full picture is absolutely still coming into focus.
You know, when you step back and look at the whole thing, the Epstein saga is just this chilling case study. It's a story about how power protects the powerful and how our systems can fail the most vulnerable among us. But it's also a story that shows us how determined journalism and incredibly brave survivors can, against all odds, drag the absolute darkest secrets into the light for every single one of us to see.